Hi everyone! Good day! My name is Irish Diane Escuevas, and for today's discussion, we will be talking about the different types of folk literature. But before we proceed to the types of folk literature, let us define first what is folk literature. Folk literature stories passed down from generation to generation, and most of the time, authors are unknown. Folk literature also includes fables, fairy tales, and tall tales. The origin of folk literature, also known as folklore or oral literature, is unidentified. It is because, as the name suggests, it started as an oral tradition which were passed down from one generation to another through the words of mouth. So now, let's proceed to the types of folk literature. So the first one is the fables. So what is fables? Fables are stories intended to teach a lesson, and animals often speak and act like human beings. So when we say fable, it is a fictional story that teaches a moral lesson. And since fable is fiction, they are imaginary, not real, or mostly they are invented. And as you can see on the picture, it represents a lot of animals, since in fables, the main characters are animals that act like humans. I've provided here an examples of fables, and I know that most of us are familiar with these stories, which are the hare and the tortoise, and the ant and the grasshopper. And since fables teaches moral lessons, let us try to recall or to remember what happened in the story of the hare and the tortoise. So, on that story, the hare is very confident of winning. So it stops during the race and falls asleep. The tortoise continues to move very slowly but without stopping, and finally it wins the race. The moral lesson of the story is that you can be more successful by doing things slowly and steadily, rather than acting quickly and carelessly. So the second types of folk literature is fairy tales. So fairy tale is a children's story in a magical setting about imaginary characters that include fairies, dwarfs, witches, angels, trolls, and talking animals. So fairy tales is a short story often involving magic and legendary deeds, and mostly, it have fantasy, supernaturals, or make-believe aspects, and they usually have clearly defined good characters. For the examples of fairy tales, we have Hansel and Gretel and the Rapunzel, and we all know that one of the characters on these stories is the witch. So now, let's move on to the last type of folk literature, which is tall tales. So, it is a fictional story that stretches truths, a larger-than-life main character doing a particular job, and mostly the problem in tall tales is solved in a funny way. So, tall tales are stories that are told as if they were true but contain exaggerated or unbelievable parts. Some tall tales are exaggerations of real events, while others are completely make-believe. Also, in tall tales, the main characters is larger than life, or mostly they are considered as superhero because they have a superhuman abilities. I also provided here a legendary figures in tall tales, which are Paul Bunyan and John Henry. So, Paul Bunyan is a giant lumberjack, a mythical hero of the lumber camps in the United States, and he is a symbol of bigness, strength, and vitality. Before we end our discussion, let us summarize the different types of folk literature that we discussed. So, the first one, we had the fables, which teaches moral lesson, and mostly the main characters in fables are the animals. We also have fairy tales, which includes fantasies, magics, and supernaturals. And the last one is the tall tales, which contains exaggerations and unbelievable parts. So, that's all for my video. I hope you learned something from my discussion. Thank you for listening, and God bless. Bye!